you are saying that Hindutva and Veer Savarkar and other people like you, they are fascist. How come a civilization which is defined by Atma can create fascist? Honestly, either Veer Savarkar had given up his faith in Indian philosophy and tradition. You prove it. Just 2 points which are made. He was a fascist. He wrote that he is the original author of the Hindutva. Those who swear by him, I mean, I read about him much later, but those who swear by him, I have heard them with my own ears saying that when this word is used, it is not different from Bhartiyata. It is not different from Rashtriyata. It is not different. It does not carry any different meaning from Hindustaniyat. It only means patriotism. And you are free to use any. I have heard them saying, myself, the top advocates of Hindutva, that we do not insist that you necessarily say Hindutva. But Hindutva, in fact, if you go into the history of it, Indians have not given the word Hindu to themselves. It becomes slightly longer because I find this is something which I would like to speak on. Indians had not given this name to themselves. Possibly, sometime in the past, possibly, I'm not sure, but possibly either the Persians used this word to describe people who were living in their neighborhood, who were dark skinned, because in Persian, Hindu means black. Yes. In fact, it is important in the Persian romantic poetry, Khale Hindi, the black mole on the cheek of your love. It's an important subject. On the other hand, in Arabic, the word Hindi, Hindu is used, is a synonym of beauty. And that is why the Arabs named their daughters as Hinda. Yes. In fact, one of the wife of the Prophet was Hinda. And man also, man name is Hind. And women's daughters are given the name of Hinda. Or for that matter, the whole Europe describes the numerals as Arabic numerals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The Roman numerals, it was very difficult to use them for the modern sciences or development of mathematics. So they adopted what they call Arabic numerals. But Arabs never call them Arabic numerals. They call it Hindsa, something which has come from India. Something which has come from India. So the word Hindu, maybe Persians, maybe Greeks at the time of Greek invasion, but this term was not popular till the Muslims from Central Asia, they established their rule in India. The reason being that I will have to build up little background. The Indian civilization, unlike other world civilizations, was not defined either by race, by language, or by religious faith. Every civilization in the world, particularly during the medieval period, it came to be defined exclusively by religious faith. If you define your civilization and culture by religious faith, naturally other groups are excluded. Everybody does not subscribe to the same faith. And this I am referring to medieval times. But Indian rishis, they were cognizant and they were appreciative of the natural law of diversity. And they knew that in India, right from the beginning of our journey of our civilization, they were aware of the presence of not only law of diversity they had respect for, they were also aware of the physical presence of this diversity in the land of India. Therefore, when they said, Bharteshu Istriya Purusho Nana Varna Pirkirtite Nana Dev Archane Yukta Nana Karmani Kurvate, the Indian women and men, they belong to different races. Varna means race, Varna means color of the skin. So it comes to almost the same thing. They adore, they worship different gods. Nana Dev Archane Yukta, Nana Karmani Kurvate. Their rituals, their customs are different from each other. There is so much diversity, yet we want to bind them into unity. We want to create one out of many. So how to do it? If I accept race, I exclude many people. If I accept language, then in India after every 16 kilometers the dialect changes. We have 22 national languages, more than 22 national languages. What should be the basis? Therefore, our thought leaders, who were the rishis, they defined Indian culture by the paradigm of Atma, soul, all inclusive. Whether you speak this language, whether the color of your skin is that, whatever it is, whatever ritual, but you can do it only if you are a living being, you have an Atma. So this civilization and culture was defined by Atma, which does not exclude anybody. But those who were ruling for us, and here I am not saying, in the normal sort of manner of criticism. No, they are also human beings. I am not criticizing because they were foreigners. No. What my point is that they were not conscious, they were not aware of the Indian values. For them, religious faith was the only defining even your rights as citizens, as subject under a king, were defined and delineated by your religious faith. If you practice this faith, then you are first class citizen. If you practice other faith, then you are a second grade citizen, then you are a third grade citizen. That was their necessity. Therefore, the word Hindu, term Hindu became popular during that time. Why? Because for them, religious faith was the everything to define any individual or any group. In India, religion was only a part of that way of life. And that is why here you find in the same household, two brothers or two sisters going to different temples or observing fast on different days or offering their devotion to different deities. It does not affect their relationship. It does not affect their status. So now The name which Indians had given to themselves, our thought leaders had given, was Sanatan. And now Sanatan, this much everybody could understand, that Sanatan to means like an umbrella which can accommodate everybody. And we have to create an exclusive group. Therefore, let us call them, maybe they did not invent the word, they did not coin the word. Historically, it was present there, but it was not very popular. Popular it became when it was used as a term to describe. All people of India were grouped together as belonging to one religious tradition. India prides itself in having so many religious traditions. Ekam sad vipra bahuda vadanti. In the beginning of our civilization, this proclamation was made. So for them it was absolutely essential to give a name. First group them as one block and give them a name. So this name was given. And because we must admit it is no criticism but factual observation. Even today, the law books, in fact, I have spent very best years of my life after 1986, when after my resignation I was facing threats to my life. So many attempts were made on me. 10 years I have spent on the intense study of Islamic scripture. And my book, which was published in 2010, the whole thrust is on showing how these attitudes which create animosities, which I hold, these attitudes are responsible what is otherwise described as Islamophobia. These attitudes are not born out of the teachings of the scripture. These attitudes are born because barely within 20 years of Prophet's death, the Muslims became, they conquered both the existing empires, the Sassanid Empire, the Byzantine Empire, the Eastern Byzantine Empire, which was the bigger part of it, and they became single superpower. When you become single superpower and you establish kingdom and you have dynastic rule, then you cannot have laws which will promote equality, which was essentially the message of the scripture. Then you will make laws and use your power to make laws. Sufism is nothing but it was a revolt against that statism and legalism, if you read the history of Sufism. So, in a country like India, country which was known, sometimes we use the word Vishwaguru without knowing the significance of it. But the fact is that India was Vishwaguru. Say in 10th, Prophet passed away in 632, 7th century. 7th century, or 8th century, or 9th century, even 10th century, Renaissance in Europe had not started yet. But the Middle East, because they had become so powerful, they were the intellectual activity. Baghdad had become center of intellectual activities, and Darul Hikmah was established there, which was responsible for translating. Plato's Academy was locked down. Then one of the caliph, he requested the then emperor, that we have come to know that the Plato's Academy, 800-year-old academy, has been locked. The books are lying under lock and key. So if you don't want to use them, give some of them to us. The meeting of the council was held for 3 days, and they deliberated and they said that these Muslims are on the rise. Give this pagan knowledge to them and it will destroy them. And they finally decided to transfer the whole library to Baghdad. And before that, this is again important because these books had come from Europe, so the whole world knows about them. That to now, the books of Plato and other Greek philosophers which are available in the market, they are basically retranslation into European languages from Arabic. But people do not know that their academic or intellectual journey started with translation of Sanskrit books into Arabic. And all prominent Arab historians, right from Tabri to Ibn Asir to Ibn Kasir and all of them, 8 volumes, 9 volumes, 7 volumes, and first chapter invariably is devoted to India. And India is recognized as knowledge destination. They say Chinese are known for their craftsmanship, Romans are known for their chivalry, Persians are known for their majesty, the Turks are known for their bravery, and India is one dominion which is known for promoting education, knowledge and wisdom. And in fact, they have reported, and it is also translated into one Urdu poem where Prophet himself said, "Ajidu rihal ilmi min biladil Hind." I am feeling the cool winds of knowledge coming from land of India. Ajidu rihal ilmi min biladil Hind. But the general rule, it was not only the Muslims who ruled over us. General rule in the world has been, when you invade a people, you conquer them, you try to demoralize them by telling them that you had no tradition of knowledge, you had no cultural traditions, you had no civilization, nothing you had. It is we who have given it to you. But the history does not bear that, does not support that view. So, basically, my feeling is, and this is very important question which I asked to myself. The question, you are saying that Hindutva and Veer Savarkar and other people like you, they are fascist. How come a civilization which is defined by Atma can create fascist? Honestly, either Veer Savarkar had given up his faith in Indian philosophy and tradition. You prove it. Or somebody who believes in Atma being the denominator. And these fascist Indian civilization is one of the oldest civilizations. There have been civilizations older than us. But today they are subject matter of the study of the academicians. They are not continuing, surviving civilizations. India is a continuing and surviving civilization, not a certificate which we as Indians are giving to ourselves. Everybody acknowledges that. Everybody acknowledges that. Then how many fascists we have created in the past? Last 4,000 years?